Bang, ba bang, 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 bang. Ba 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 bang, ba bang, bang, bang. You're welcome. Hello and welcome to the video. I hope you're doing very, very well. Welcome to my slightly rewired office that I've just hastily moved back into, so if it's a bit of a mess, that's why. So if you have watched the first part of the video, which I'll put on screen now, you would have seen the 3D scanning element of this. So this will be part 2, which is essentially 3D printing, 3D modelling to a degree, and fitting the wheel arches. Long story short, instead of importing and buying plastic wheel arches from Japan and shelling out the best part of £500, I thought I'd spend double that buying a 3D scanner and a 3D printer and then printing my own. The 3D printer element, I think more people are going to be interested in over the 3D scanning element because you can just make stuff. Case in point being a desk tidy, a little camper van for Paul Sparrow, an Insta360 case to hold my Insta360. I don't want to bore you guys too much, so let's quickly get into this. I'll show you what I've done in terms of the arch modelling and then we'll go from there. Hopefully you'll be able to see this, but this is the scan of the arch that I did before. You can see my wheel, you can see some of the suspension components in there, you can see the door. More importantly, you can see the contours of the body, and you can also see how much the tyre pokes out. So basically what I did on the front is I modelled on this surface, and I modelled just enough so it would cover this. This software I'm using is Shaped 3D. It's a free to use, very basic modelling software. You can do a lot in it, but if you're a bit of a moron like me, you don't really know what you're doing with technology, this stuff is super, super easy to use. I have used things like Fusion 360 before, which I'd argue would be way more functional, like you could do more on them. They're just really difficult to get used to, and I couldn't be bothered to spend hours and hours and hours trying to learn the software. But yeah, you can see roughly what I'm going for. Really sort of thin line. I don't want it massively poking out. You can see these little rivet holes or bolt holes. The plan for me fitting these to the arches and what I've done on the front, I'm going to drill holes in the truck, riv nut into that, which means these are then removable. So if they ever break, if they ever tarnish over time, they need repainting or anything like that, 4 bolts, I remove them and then I can go and paint them, I can reprint them or whatever I need to do. On here you've got a load of different options and you can just pretty much draw whatever you want. You know exactly what's coming, don't you? 2 circles, one slightly bigger than the other one. Line along here, maybe draw a line along there, and then I'll get an arc. I will just go from there to there. Can't remember what I'm modelling here. I'm such a child. Welcome to the channel. If that offended you, probably not the channel for you. I can extrude it, which basically just means do this. So I can make it as thick as I want, which would be a dream in real life. But you kind of get the gist of what I'm doing here. What I can then do is select any of these surfaces, I can taper them a straight kind of a cut, or I can round edge them. So where I had the rivets, for example, I just create another one like that, exit sketching, I can then select that and extrude it again, and I can go all the way through if I want to, and then you've suddenly got a hole. It is way more complex than this, and you can obviously spend way more time sort of refining things. For example, I did this yesterday. This is a mount for my Chiggy. So I run the Chiggy AIO 5, which is the Android Auto device that I got from a bike thing. There is a mount for that you can get from Chiggy, but because it's me, I wanted to just 3D print and design something. So this is what I've made. The idea being, this is the hole for the bar, like the bar that goes above my TFT screen. This will go around that bar, bolt to the back of the Chiggy. The bottom of here is not quite on the Chiggy, so the idea being when you bolt those 2 screws down, it brings it in a little bit and just closes this gap at the bottom, which means there's an even tighter grasp on the bar. I will probably print some form of cap for this, so you can't get mud and grit and grime in there. There's an extra want for me to have the rear arches removable, and that is, so this is, you're looking at the back of the arch here, so this is the mud flap. Imagine the bed side is there. Those hinges basically means the bed can rotate down, fold completely flat. I obviously can't do that with the fat tyres on and with the arch extenders on. I very rarely drop the sides anyway, but they're removable, which is what I want. So very quickly I'm going to run over a 3D printer and what a 3D printer can do. If you're not aware, basically a 3D printer melts and draws lines of plastic or versions of plastic. There's various different materials you can use. ABS plastic, PETG, which is PETG or PETG as some people call it, PLA. If you have the hardened nozzles, which is what I've got on this, you can print like carbon fibre infused or metal infused plastic, so they're even stronger. That's what it does, and that's how it makes pretty much anything you can think of or someone else can think of. It's fantastic, fantastic thing. I have a Bambu Labs P1S, which is the model, which is that thing there. They just seem to be really easy. They give you an all-in-one solution. I very rarely get misprints with this, like failed prints. So currently I have got 2 AMSs, which are, an AMS is essentially so you can have 4 different filaments, and then it auto feeds those into the system, so you can print stuff like this without changing filament, because it does it all for you. It auto levels the bed for you and everything. It's got a camera in there, so you can do little time lapses, all sorts of stuff. Normally, if you can think of it, it's been made. KTM, helmet hanger, coasters, key rings, ready to race clock. Like, there's just everything you can think of, someone's normally done it, which is really nice. And these are all free to download. I won't go hugely into printers themselves, but there are a load of different options. So you can get different printing plates, you can get different nozzles, you can get lights. Like, I've added lights in there. I tend to print with a 0.4mm hardened nozzle. That gives me a good balance between speed and detail. The smaller the nozzle you go, the finer the detail is, but obviously it takes a lot longer to print. Now, to give you a little bit of the overview of the Bambu Labs software or Bambu Studio, as you'd expect, this links to your printer, so I can send everything from this to the printer. I can send it from my phone to the printer, or anything like that. So you export from your modelling software into the 3D printing software, or your slicer as it's called, and then you can send it off to your printer. On the left side here, you've got your nozzles and like all your different settings. So you've got, at the top, I've got what nozzle I'm using. I've got the type of plate I'm using. You've got your filament options, so I'm going to use PETG-HF. There are so many options on this. Your layer height, your line width. You can come down and like see if you want it to iron the top surfaces to smooth them out. You can dictate how much of it is plastic and how much infill, as it were. So that would currently have a 0% infill, whereas if there was like some lines for strength, you would have a 10% infill, and then you can go all the way up to 100% infill, so the whole thing is a block of plastic. Anything above 15% is really strong, like really strong. This is probably at 10%, and it's complete fun. I mean, I have taken paint off the wall. You can then also dictate what the pattern is inside, which is what these are. Different ones have different strengths and weaknesses. So I normally enable supports if there's something that is hanging, or like if it's got a bow like that, like I would print the support to come up and hold this bit. There's loads of different options along here. There's some, I mean, you hover over them and you can work out what they do. Now, anyone with half a brain cell can tell that that is not going to print like that. Up here, you have an option to cut. But what that allows you to do is cut the model halfway along, or wherever you want, 3 pieces, 2 pieces, or 50 pieces if you really want to. And you can add either planar joins or a dovetail joint, which allows you to print both parts of the model and then click them together afterwards. So I go dovetail, I will rotate this by 90 degrees, and then I will need to bring the width down to bring it inside the model, and you can tell here that when it goes purple and blue, that's within the model. Hit perform cut, you can see it hasn't gone through the hole. So if I slice plate, you can see it's put in the supports here. What's also quite useful in this is it will give you a rough time to print the model. It will give you a prep time if you're doing bed leveling or anything like that. It will give you a rough cost as well, so it reckons this thing here is going to cost me £2.16 to print. It knows that because in the device, if I go into the device, I've got this AMS, which I mentioned before, which is the auto filling or auto feeding thing. There's a sensor in there, and then there's a registration, like an RFID tag thing in the filament. So you put it in, it knows exactly what filament it is, and it even tells you the levels of how much filament you've got in those. This is going to bed level now and do all its stuff. It's got 2.5 hours before it thinks it's done, so I will wait until that's done. I'll print the other side of that, and then I'll bring you guys back to show you the model. Pretty long intro to video. I said this wasn't going to be 25 minutes long, but I guess it's going to be 25 minutes long. Now, cut to me about 2 months later. I've actually been running the arches on the truck for the past 2 months. I've only put the front arches on the truck. Reason I only put the front arches on is because I was trying to get away without putting the rear arches on if I could. I put the truck through its MOT, which is the annual roadworthiness test here in the UK, and I put the stock wheels on when I did that, so I didn't have to worry about it being wider than the arches, the whole reason for this video. When it went through the MOT, it passed with flying colours, not a single advisory. And I spoke to the guy there who said that it's now no longer an MOT failure to have your wheels poking outside of the arches. I think there are obviously legal implications to running wider wheels than your arches, so I still want to move forward with this. But if I can avoid putting more holes in the truck, of course I'm going to. But what it has done is actually given me quite a bit of time to understand how these arches work in the real life, with all the body roll, with all the movement, all the dirt and grime that gets into them and everything. Now, what I did before to essentially join the two halves of those dovetail joints is I just super glued them, then I used filler, and then I sanded and painted them. And I think the way that I'd also created that dovetail joint in the previous ones were a little bit close to the edge, and I didn't leave quite enough thickness there. So the dovetail joint on the left side of the truck actually snapped in one area, and like I said, the super glue didn't really hold up, so they ended up splitting. For this round, I decided to not only super glue them in place, but also use the plastic welding kit that I conveniently have because my Ducati likes to undress itself, and then use that to essentially strengthen the backs and the underneath of these arches, so they should hold slightly stronger. As I mentioned, and I will mention in the upcoming video, I used PETG, which is a form of plastic which has a level of UV resistance. It has a level of heat resistance as well. I'm going to paint it and I'm going to clear coat it, which just gives it another layer of protection as well. So let's get back to me. I'm about to annoy some of you. I'm all about using appropriate tools, so I'm going to use an angle grinder to cut these tiny bits of metal. I'm now purely just doing this to wind people up on the internet. He's not using the proper tool! He didn't mix it first! It's going to annoy you even more when this works out really well. Right, so I can't actually remember when I last stopped the recording because it's been a couple of days, but I'm outside at the moment. I am using Keith's bed as a perfect place to just rest stuff to sand. If I pick this up, you should be able to see in there, see the little S shapes? Those are the plastic welds, so they are all on the back sides of these, they're not on the front. I've used some filler, as you would have seen in the last bit where I was trying to clickbait or rage bait you, should I say. I've still got a little bit to do, a little bit to tighten up to do. You can see an edge there, and the internals for those aren't quite right. They need a bit of sanding as well. But for the most part, they are sanded solid as well. So they just need finish off sanding, primer, paint, and then clear coat, and then we should be good. Let me quickly show you what I mean with these old ones. As you can tell, the stainless steel bolts that are apparently stainless steel are not stainless steel because they are rusty AF. And I think basically the body roll, the suspension roll and all that sort of stuff, they've split. So it's not that bad this side, and they're starting to go there as well. So hopefully the plastic welds will make a massive difference there. This side's even worse. You can see the actual tongue and groove has broken here. Like the actual plastic has broken because it's obviously just too thin. The other thing I have done, which you might be able to see just like tucking out of the back here, is I've put some rubber behind it. The idea behind that is basically to give it some airflow and stop it vibrating against the truck and ruining the paint of the truck. But I cut them too thick and they have moved, so I am going to actually glue those to the back of this, go slightly thinner, and then hopefully they won't move anywhere near as much. So with that in mind, I will see you when these are painted. Here's my super complex drying booth. I've spray painted these with filler primer, should I say, black, and then clear coat, spray them, take them indoors to dry most of the way, or make it tack dry, bring them out here in the sun to dry properly, and then hang them off the shipping container. The shipping container is in the garden because we had our house rewired, so we've just dumped a load of stuff in there, including Emma's bike and the monkey and a load of other shit. But the funny thing about the shipping container is it's got really funny words on it. Sorry, definitely numbers. That's totally what I'm talking about. I've got the other one over there somewhere. Just going to finish up spraying these and then they can go on. This new one's slightly better. This is the old one. If it will focus, you can see the lines in it. See how rusty the old bolts are gone, and obviously it's broken. Here's my new one, has got fingerprints all over it. So this one has had a satin black paint and also the clear coat. There is a little tiny dink in it there, which I'm going to try and use some filler on. Overall, that's going to look a shed load better. And obviously we had to use some proper stainless steel bolts, not from Amazon. Look at that, mate. Looks so much better. Poke wise, ignoring the rubbish that we still need to take to the dump, that is bang on what I need to be legal on the public roads, which is perfect. So there we go. I think a rather successful job. I've also learnt a few bits from this round, which I think I could probably do a little bit better. This is the only problem with 3D printing, is that now I go, oh, that could be tweaked a little bit. Maybe I'll just do that again. And then you spend 3 to 5 working days every single week trying to refine your design a little bit. So I'm going to do that now. Thank you very, very much for watching, and I will see you in next week's video. Bye.